Good evening. Calling to order the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting for January 30th, 2023. Present is myself, Committee Chair Nicholas Scull, Cheryl Lockhart, and Commissioner Anthony Perusi, Township Attorney Sean Kilkenny, our Township Manager Matt Canlon, and our esteemed Director of Parks and Recreation, Matt Stacy. Any presentations or announcements? Doesn't look like it. Approval of minutes from November 28th.
No comments.
No comments?
They were perfect.
Okay, move that ahead. All right, now we're down to the Parks and Recreation report. Mr. Stacia.
Thank you, Commissioner. A couple of comments. This report is for November and December of 22. A lot of my time in the administration was spent working with the team of Simone Collins, landscape architects, for the Woodlawn Park Draft Master Plan, and also communicating with the steering committee on that project. We also updated and prepared all of our information for the new year to send out to the public to make sure our websites are accurate. And I continue to work with DCNR on two grants. One is for Farmstead Park and the other one is for the purchase of Woodlawn, and we're working our way through all of those submissions. On the recreation side, Kate Kohler has ran some special events during the fall, a fowl shooting contest, calls from Santa, and a holiday mini photo session at Farmstead Park. All three were very well received and we're very pleased, and you can see some photos in the report concerning that. Kate is also working with the Farmstead Alliance, concerning some structural revitalization of those buildings, which we'll talk about a little bit later today. So she's working closely with that organization. On the maintenance side, every fall we get a report from our insurance carrier concerning any issues or concerns in our parks. As always, the report is very detailed, but it's very small. Which is great because that means our staff is doing an excellent job. The report identifies anything. It could be a crack in a sidewalk, it could be missing basketball nets, or it could be something much more serious, missing playground parts, and they rate them A, B, C, D, and they have other ratings as well. We have no high concern areas in our parks. Almost all of the concerns, I'll say 90% of them, are what they call minor. And we take care of all of those concerns as soon as they come in. We do reply directly to Divot, so they have my report, so they go out and do another field study to make sure that our report is accurate. We also did some leaf vac in our parks, specifically Mason's Mill, Blair Mill, and some of the other ones that get a lot of leaves. We usually hit them twice. And then lastly, with our maintenance staff, every November, December, we sit down and we organize our goals for the following year. We review our goals from the previous year, and we set up new goals for the following year. Those goals are posted in our offices down at the maintenance headquarters so that the staff can review them and remember where we're heading during this year. We're finalizing those goals right now. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have on my report.
Well, I am anxious to hear, and I see Chris Mendel is here, about Farmstead Park, because I did read the bid specifications, but they didn't really give me a big picture of what's happening, so look forward to seeing that.
How did you do on last year's goals? And is there anything that we can do as a board to help you achieve this year's goals?
In the office, for our office staff and our goals, we did very well. We met almost every goal. Some we did not meet, were out of our control. Our maintenance staff met all of the work-related goals. We did fall a little short on going to seminars and seminar attendance to continue to train our staff. We do train the staff. We got a new staff member in mid-season. We wanted to get him to several sessions. We didn't quite get to all of the sessions or all of the different training. He is scheduled to go, I think, next week to a training session. So we did very, very well. There's certain things that fall outside of our control sometimes.
Sure. Okay. All right, well, you didn't request any help from us.
Commissioners are very helpful for Parks and Recreation, and we're very appreciative.
We'll leave it at that.
All right, can I have the Library Board of Trustees report?
evening, Commissioners. My name is Melissa Osborne. It is my 6th year as a library trustee and 2nd year serving as the president, and I'm a resident of Ward 3. The Upper Moreland Board of Trustees welcome Dr. Tony Giannetti and Miss Megan Friedman as our new board members to fill vacancy seats left by Tom Hassani and Tamara Goodrow. The Friends of the Upper Moreland Library are seeking a treasurer for their executive board. Any library patron is encouraged to participate, even if they don't live in Upper Moreland. You can email your information to the Friends of Upper UMFPL, all one word, at gmail.com, and the Friends President Tom Almarini will be in touch. The Friends are currently meeting on the 3rd Wednesday of every month from 1:30 to 2:30 in the community room at the library. The Friends of the Upper Moreland Library held a successful family-friendly fundraiser on New Year's Eve. Thank you for your participation, Commissioner Skoll. Thanks to the generosity of premier sponsor Freedom Credit Union and the 2 silver sponsors, Hepburn Federal Bank and the Rotary Club of Willow Grove, the Friends raised over $5,000 for the library, and everyone had a great time. Weekly in-person toddler story hour has resumed and the small group study room is available for public use on a first-come, first-served basis. We were able to purchase new shelves from a donation from the Friends of the Library that will be installed tomorrow. The shelves are going to hold our local history collection and Upper Moreland Township School District yearbooks from 1960 moving forward, as well as our adult education literacy material used in conjunction with the Literacy Council of Norristown Tutorers. Our new program, Dragon Capers, is created for people ages 8 and up, but is open for any age group. It's an activity that combines the Upper Moreland Library website and dial-a-story to solve a mystery. The participants call a dial-a-story number, get clues, and solve mysteries, and then they can receive a medal from the info desk when they solve the mystery. Any questions?
Wow.
Lots going on, as usual.
Always.
I did enjoy the New Year's event. It wasn't quite what I imagined. It was like wild. Lots of kids running around, but having a good time. It was intense, but quick and great. Great event. Yes, I'm just always amazed at how many services, how many programs our library has, how much it's changed since when I was a boy, and what libraries do today.
Yeah. We'd like to say the library is more than books.
That's right.
Yep.
Are there any comments, public or commissioners? All right, well, thank you very much for your report.
Thanks for your time. Go Birds.
See you at the next meeting. Yeah.
Thank you.
See you in a couple of weeks. Old business, Woodlawn Park Master Plan Development.
Thank you, Commissioner. The Woodlawn Park Master Plan has the final draft completed. It'll come before this, or the Board of Commissioners, next Monday night. We did invite all of the park neighbors, and it is on our website, and it is through other social media that we are advertising the word. We want people to come out and view the presentation. I expect the presentation will be about 20 minutes of presented material, and then we'll have some questions and answers. The steering committee, most of them have already gave me their vote if they are recommending this plan. I'm still waiting on a couple more votes. The board will receive a letter of recommendation from the steering committee, if that's the way they move, and you will receive prior to the meeting the final draft plan. I'm not sure in which format yet. I have to talk to Matt Canlin. It's about 130 pages, so it's a big plan. When I asked the steering committee for their review, they reviewed the final plan. I asked them to go through the plan and look for anything that was misrepresented or that they felt was not discussed. But the final drawing of the plan, the blueprint of the park, they were not to change because that had already been decided and approved by that committee. So person A wasn't supposed to come back and say, oh, I think we should move the swing sets. That's already been decided. What they looked at was all of the text and all those supporting documents. So you should receive that recommendation in your packets this week, and you'll receive the plan. Again, it'll be presented to the public, and we welcome all public input. All the neighbors were notified direct letters. So we're hoping we get a nice turnout here, and we receive some wonderful comments and some other comments and maybe some other things to consider. When that's done, we'll leave it available for 30 days for review and comment, then we'll bring it back to the board for a final approval or non-approval.
That's assumed to be the March meeting?
I would assume it's going to be the March meeting. Unless something extraordinary comes up where we have to make drastic changes.
Okay.
All right, I've been looking forward to that,
Yes.
as well as the next item. Oh, no, not the next item.
Well, it's a great one too.
Yeah, that's a great. Staging area request for the Warminster Bridge repair.
So the folks that are making the repairs, need some place to stage their equipment and their materials for this project. And they reached out to the township, since we own some properties in those areas, and those were purchased through a flood buyout program. We weren't sure what the agreement should look like, so we had the solicitor's office prepare the agreement, forwarded on to them for their review. They didn't have any exceptions to that agreement. Now it's before the board for the consideration if we want to move it forward. I'm not sure when they're scheduled to start. Is it April?
I think is when it goes.
It's April this year, so they're looking for an area to do all their staging.
The only comment that I had regarding this, and I believe it's probably something that they're gonna handle anyway, is to develop an erosion and sediment control plan for those two properties. So that way we can see how they're safeguarding the neighboring properties, how they're keeping debris and silt and things from rolling off of those sites and onto the streets and neighboring properties, and have our township engineer review the plan to make sure that it meets our standards.
And I think that's a wonderful suggestion and recommendation. I can reach out to them tomorrow to provide the ENS plan to us, which I believe, and I think Paul weighed in, they've already had to submit at some level. I have not seen it. But if we can get that as an addendum to the memorandum of understanding, we'll attach that for you for next month's meeting, or next week's meeting.
Okay.
Don't you think Gilmore and Associates have taken care of all that? Considered all that?
Probably not, because these sites are not, it's not land development, it's got nothing to do with the development of the bridge. So this is a request that has nothing to do with the construction, it's a means and methods issue, and that's not something that we typically would deal with. So now is the time to talk.
Yeah, I agree, particularly, now that you told me that. But we wouldn't ask them to review it,
Who?
the MOU, Gilmore and Associates.
We would have Gilmore review the erosion sediment control plan.
Okay,
And the solicitor created the MOU for us.
all right. All sounds good. Any other comments?
Have we heard it? I mean, this has been on an agenda a couple times already. Have we heard any negative feedback from anybody about this? Neighbors or?
I've not heard any comments from anyone.
Okay.
I suspect
That we will.
we will.
Yeah, okay.
It's not out there and there's nothing in
What's the contract?
on the property, right, once items are placed.
Yeah. So do we want to take into consideration any kind of visibility fencing or access control? Because there's nothing about that anywhere in these terms either. Is Alan Myers required to put up security fencing around the properties to make sure people aren't coming and going off of there?
They're not required as of now. We can certainly make that some sort of a requirement, and we can give them an access area. When I spoke to them, there are some depressions in the curb stops from where houses were. That was going to be their access points.
Sure.
And covered in the MOU would be any damage to any curbs or any sidewalks or any turf.
Right. Okay.
I will report back.
Yeah, I would like to see those two things added. So erosion and sediment control plan, and then, I know it's an added expense, but security fencing or something that goes along with that control plan.
The question of fencing is a touchy one, and we've been trying to look it up, though I haven't gotten a sound answer. We bought that property with flood buyout money, and we are not allowed to put any fencing or obstructions in there. There's also a concern with what they're staging, and if something's there, they're gonna have to move it if they're calling for flood waters or things like that.
I didn't see anything, so they should know about that.
They do know about that.
That's not anywhere in this MOU, though.
It's in our emails with them, but we should maybe add that as well.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, good catch.
So I'm looking for ENS plan, access defined, fencing, and reinforming them about flooding, and those materials would have to be moved. Okay.
All right. All right, now we're getting to where I was trying to get to. Farmstead Park Environmental Improvements Bid Award.
So, the board authorized us to go out to bid for Farmstead Park and all of our environmental improvements. We have just over $800,000 in improvements planned for this park. We advertised the bids. We held a pre-bid meeting. Chris Mendel from Pennypack is here as well. At that pre-bid meeting, I think we had 3 different vendors there. It might have been 4, 2 of them may have been working together. And we reviewed the scope of the project with the contractors. We responded to all their questions, and then we put that out there to everyone who picked up the bid packets so that everybody had the same information. We had 5 bid packets picked up. We did receive only 1 bid. We did review the bid. Chris reviewed the bid, I reviewed the bid. Our Gilmore and Associates also reviewed the bid. We found that the company that made the bid can certainly perform the work. We have worked with them in the past, and they are a responsible bidder. What I'm recommending is that we take the base bid. There was a base bid and 3 alternates. We accept the base bid in the amount of $628,802. Alternate number 1 was some cobblestone along the walkways. The cost for that was prohibitive, so we sort of eliminated that. Alternate number 2 was a paved pathway. They're going to do some paved paths. This was an additional paved path, which would be on the north side of the barn, kind of coming from the driveway in between the barn and the soccer field, and around the back of the barn, meeting up down on the lower area. We believe we can do that in-house for much cheaper. And bid alternate number 3, if I have them correct, I might have had 2 and 3 out of order. No, bid alternate 3 was to pave and stripe and sign the parking lot. We believe we can do that in-house for much cheaper as well. So if we take the base bid and award that at 628, and we perform the other work, which we think will come in at about 105,000, we're looking at a cost for this project of about 733,000 plus or minus. We have 815,000, so we have some room there in case any change orders come up or anything. So, but in the end, our 2 grants that we've received for this project can act as a match for each other. So the less money we spend, more opportunity for the township to save money. The township does have $115,000 in cash in this project, plus staff time. So I'm recommending 628,802.69, which is the base bid to Think Green. And then I'm recommending we do not do bid alternate number 1. We do bid alternate number 2 and bid alternate number 3 in-house for about a total of 105,000.
Okay, well, so I read through it, and I didn't quite understand about the trail. Is it only going to go? Is it all going to be paved? I mean, down the hill and around and up the other side, or?
If we award this, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And I wondered about the culvert we put in long ago, so you could get across the stream to get to the meadows, and that's going to be fenced off?
No. No, the culvert that we put in to get to the back area is going to remain just about as it is right now.
Oh, okay. And you're still using that to cut the grass back there, I assume?
Exactly.
Okay. No, it all sounds great to me.
Chris, if you have a comment to add to what I just said, please feel free, if I had it accurate.
Chris Mendel, Pennypack Trust. I'll just say that the alternate B here, the second alternate, is kind of secondary circulation to what we're providing in the base bid. So I think that you can have appropriate ADA circulation in the base bid, and what Patrick is saying about the township performing ancillary paving just provides greater access throughout the rest of the park.
Well, for instance, I know part of the trail wasn't ADA accessible because it was too steep.
So the plan, the trail that's down by the creek, just, I guess it's south of the farmhouse, that trail is going to be relocated. It's actually going to move up the hill a little bit and traverse the hill, which will get us to meet our ADA slopes and slants, to make sure that folks with mobility issues can traverse that.
And I saw something about trees. Did I see the word orchard? No?
In a manner of speaking, yes. The point of this meadow area is to plant it with trees that are going to be able to transpire water. So that part of the park receives stormwater from itself and also from adjacent neighbors.
So those trees are going in there?
Yes, sir.
Oh, great.
And the circulation and the need for ADA compliance is to make sure that we're providing program for folks who are not engaged in
Sure.
active
Oh,
rec,
sure.
right? So this is for engagement.
Great. Oh, yeah, I'm sure that's part of the granting agency that we have all that stuff. Well, great. What kind of trees are gonna be in the quote orchard?
It's a mix of native hardwood trees, native canopy trees.
I think also, I should say that in the waterway, or the creekway, or the swale, whatever we want to define it, there's a lot of invasives, and Chris and his team are going to come out and do a lot of the grunt work to get the invasives out of there and tag the native or healthy living trees and vegetation so that the contractor can come in and we'll have a great idea of what to keep and what needs to be removed. But a lot of that work Chris is doing with some volunteers and some staff members.
You know, there's a whole section behind there that's wooded, which we've often talked about, ought to be cleared out and cleaned up. Got a lot of invasive trees and,
Are you talking over by, I think it's Kentner Road, like way on the very far end of it?
yeah.
And this plan does nothing to address that at this point, but you're absolutely correct.
Do we want to address it at this point?
Not with the funds that are here. We can revisit it with our funds, but it's not part of the grants that we applied for. So that would be outside the scope of what we applied for the funds for.
Well, I'm just thinking, since we have some leeway in the grant,
We have leeway with our funds.
right?
Right, so if we don't spend all of the money that we've committed to it, I can come back and ask the board for additional funding and maybe I can get a price from a contractor that's out there. While he's there, maybe he can offer some suggestions.
Okay.
I do want to say too, before you vote on this, that we held a meeting with the neighbors. I think Commissioner, you were there, it was last year. Okay, a couple of commissioners were there. We informed them of what our plan was. We presented the plan, the actual plan. We got some great feedback from the neighbors. One of the things that we did to assist with their request was we moved the trail along the houses. I think it's Kentner is the road, and then the road to the west. So we moved the trail away from their property a little bit more because they like to sit outside in our property, but they didn't want folks walking so close. So we redirected the trail a little bit to give them a little more area, and some other minor things that their comments were, we took into account for this plan. Chris and I will be meeting, if this is approved, with the neighbors once again to update them on the status, when the construction might begin and what the plan looks like.
I have a couple questions. So can you posit a guess as to why bidder turnout was so poor?
So it was an interesting dilemma as to why it was low. Two of the contractors that I spoke to the day of the pre-bid meeting said they were aware of how much money we had because they either read about it or they knew about how much money, and access and the work, the handwork involved was going to create a big difficulty for them, and they didn't think they could put the bid in at the number that we needed it to come in. Other comments were they're extremely busy, it's a busy time, and they could have thrown in a high number in hopes to get it and make that much more profit because they're so busy with other projects that are going on. So I think those were the main reasons that we only received one bid.
Okay, all right. And we're comfortable with this one bidder?
Very comfortable. Chris is very familiar with Think Green. I'm very familiar with Think Green. The work that they've done, the fact that they finish on time and on budget in almost every project. Then we asked Gilmore to make some phone calls just to confirm what
Yeah.
Chris and mine experience has been, and they came out very positive.
Okay, all right, so that's good. And then, in your recommendation letter, township has committed $115,000 in cash for this project. Can you remind me, is that a match, or is that just money that we're spending in order to enhance?
So originally, the 115 was gonna be a match for a grant.
Okay.
Chris received a large grant, 335,000?
339 from NIFWF and 360 something from DCNR.
Right, so Chris received a large grant, and then we applied to DCNR, and our 115, DCNR said, that's not a big enough match, it's 50-50. So we were not gonna get this project. A few months after it was submitted, Chris informed me that he got the NIFWF money. We were able to, and then DCNR said, okay, now we'll go to the full amount that you're asking for. So they were gonna give us 115 to match our 115. Once Chris got his match, or got his grant, DCNR went all the way up to our request.
Okay, so does that then mean that we technically don't have a township cash match that we have to do?
That's, my understanding at this point is, that's correct. They're the two grants, well, we have a small match because the NIFWF grant is not as much as the DCNR grant. So I think there's about a $30,000 difference there, maybe? I'm going from memory here. So there's at least a $30,000 cash match that we would have to make in order to get to the amount that DCNR gave us.
I don't need the exact numbers, it's perfectly
Okay.
fine. I guess what I'm asking is, if we did have a match of any sort that was outside of the two grants working together, is the amount of work that we're gonna perform in-house enough to finalize the match and still fall underneath of our committed cash amount?
Yes.
Okay.
I had to put it together in my head. Yes.
So we're meeting all of our grant obligations. We're also doing work in-house to save us some money. We're getting everything that we wanted except for the cobblestone alternates because it's, you know, excessive detail that we probably don't need anyway and it's a maintenance hassle. And then we could potentially still have some money left over to take care of some of the other items that might pop up during the process, because I'm sure there's gonna be unknowns and change orders and all that other stuff that happens. Okay. Because we definitely fell underneath the amount of money with this Think Green bid that we had in total, correct?
Right, our original thought, our original plan was to get the 815,000 because the hope was that a contractor would do the paving
Yeah.
and the pathway and maybe the cobblestone. So, but they were bid as alternates.
Okay.
The numbers came in much higher than it's worth it for us to do the work in-house. The downside is it's gonna take public works crews, 2 to 3 weeks or however time period. They're not doing other projects.
Right.
So they're doing this project.
Right.
So that's the trade-off. It's still, we think, I'm talking with Dave Elsier, the amount of money, they were gonna charge us $161,000 for the parking lot.
Yeah.
We're gonna do the parking lot and the trail for about $105. So the $56,000 in savings is, add the time, we think it's a benefit to the township.
Okay, so yeah, I had two more questions. You just answered the staffing one.
Okay.
Right, so thank you for that. The last one is, are we able to spend the delta between the 815,917 and the 628,802 on whatever we want to spend in that Farmstead Park area, or does it have to be ecological?
So,
How do we use that extra money, I guess?
so we're going to use up all of the grant money
Okay,
in this project. We're gonna go through it all.
okay,
There'll be extra money, we anticipate, township money, that we can then use however we'd like.
okay. So the grant money, we're gonna get to the penny, that 815,917. We should spend that.
The 816 is the budget for this. That includes our money.
Oh, that include, okay, so
Yes.
take the 115 out of that.
Correct.
All right,
So we have
you're at
700.
700,000.
Yeah, it's a little bit more, but it's around 700. Yes, so that will be spent.
Okay,
So
good.
between the parking lot and the pathway and the project, I think it came out to 733. So there's the grant for 700 and then 33,000 of Upmoreland money.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we were taking full advantage of those grant monies. We weren't leaving anything on the table because our bid was too low.
We are not leaving anything on the table.
Okay, good. Carry on.
And that.
Is there anything you want to add, or is that?
That township money is money in this year's budget.
It's in the capital budget, so it is there, yes.
Okay. It's not free. It's not free money.
No.
Okay, great, thank you.
And,
So I'm asking to move this forward to the,
oh, I'm sorry, absolutely.
because the full board would have to vote on this.
You agree?
Three of us up here.
I know. I knew you were here for a reason.
Yes, I'm okay.
You have good comments.
Cheryl?
Okay. Letter B,
Another comment, Commissioner.
nice, sorry.
If I may, I just really want to state my thanks, appreciation on behalf of the Pennypack Ecological Restoration Trust, our 1,300 members, the watershed at large, for a really fantastic cooperation that's really making a difference for this township, its residents, and again, everyone downstream and associated with this habitat. Thank you all. This has been a great partnership.
And let me echo that, it has been a wonderful partnership, and really the driving force behind this is Chris, right? So all of his knowledge and everything that he brings to the table, and all I have to do is tap into that. So it's, but it's been a great partnership. Working with Chris on this project has been outstanding, and I look forward. It should start this spring, should conclude by the fall, so I'm really excited about that park's gonna look like next year.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we thank you, Chris. And, you know, for a long time, I had a dream that we'd get the watershed to buy a piece of land from the township and do just what we're doing. But you've made it possible. We don't have to sell it to you. Or sell it.
You almost got rid of it, Bet.
All righty. So the next item is a bid authorization for the structural improvements at the historic building in the park. I think we know a lot about that as a committee, but.
Yep, just highlights then, there's some structural improvements, a lot going on at Farmstead Park in '23, very exciting. We have $200,000 in grants and about $80,000 in township money for this project. We did ask for extensions, so we're getting another year extension, so this work now has to be done by, I think, June 30th of '24. We plan to move this summer. We've had structural engineers creating the bid specs. They are completed. Gilmore Associates has reviewed them. Our solicitor weighed in because we're looking for very specific types of workers who can perform work on historic structures, and we're not sure what our boundaries are. So we got some information from our solicitor. So we're finalizing the bid specs. What I'd like to do is go out and advertise for the bids. And that advertisements, those would occur in February. We would have a pre-bid meeting on site. Hopefully we can open the bids late February, and maybe in March, ask you folks to award the bids.
Sure. Can we approve that?
This is just for, is this for stabilization?
This is for roofing, some soffit work, a little bit of chimney work. This is for the removal of the cottage.
Okay.
And then some repairs to the barn so that we can remove the fencing around the barn.
Okay, so this is far more than just structural. Because I think our thing here just says structural improvements. So this is.
Yeah, maybe I worded that poorly. It's roofing, it's soffits, it's wood under the roof if it needs to be repaired.
Okay.
So it's the roofing structures.
All right, yeah, because I just wanted to make sure that for what we're spending here, we're doing more than just structural, because I know we have been talking about the roofs and all that stuff. All right, that's fine. My other question, and I guess it goes back to, it's getting these buildings watertight and structurally stable. It's doing nothing to beef up any structure. It's just getting it right back to where it was.
I don't disagree with you. The first thing is to get get the roofs fixed and repaired so that water and critters aren't entering in like they are now that are causing destruction.
Okay.
This should handle that, but it's the very first step of many steps.
Understood. Yeah, and the reason I'm just putting a fine point on that is because we've talked about these structures being rehabbed for different things. This is none of that. This is just getting those structures stabilized for the use and the purpose that they're at right now. And then if anything else comes out of these later on, it's additional time and effort to develop how things need to be beefed up to handle that program.
Everything you stated, I would agree with, yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thanks. Remember that for every other thing I say, Pat.
So we're going to authorize the bids?
I'm okay with it.
All right, thank you, Pat. Other part, I have to move down my agenda here. Other parks and recreation items. Oh, there aren't any. Are there? Okay.
A couple things. So I was glad to see the, the staging area for the Warmest Road Bridge on the agenda and discussed. But what we didn't, one of the things that was included in the replacement of the bridge was a substantial amount of stream bank work. So, it's PennDOT's work to be done, but I'd like to see that reviewed by Gilmore. The actual stream bank stuff. That's one item. Also, we recently, became aware of some FEMA money that we're looking to acquire more parkland. We've invested a lot of money and time into the expansion of the trails. And we have a lot more responsibilities for the Parks and Rec department. So I don't know if we need an expansion of manpower in that department, but I know that it's, every time we turn around, there's an additional tasks that have to be performed, and there's more of it. Also, we talked about you can call it 2040 or 2050 grant. I did see it. Maybe it was a typo, but something from Montgomery County says 2050. Anyhow, I did commit to that one project that we're going to try to partner with, and if that doesn't come to fruition with that particular grant, if we don't think it's a feasible application, then I did discuss this with Commissioner Lockhart, and advocating for partnerships with these grant applications. So in addition to that one, there's always other ones to encourage partnerships, and the trails with Horsham is, prime, and also the basin work at Pennypack Park, Penny in Hapro. That's also a good partnership that would be helpful for both of us. Finally, the EAC talked about reforesting, and there was a project at the dog park that you took a look at. I don't know how we got to that part of the dog park. I personally, my contribution towards it was that if we had the right foresting application, it would also serve as a sound barrier along the turnpike, not necessarily at the dog park area, but further east between the creek and the turnpike itself. But we did, they weren't our trees, but the turnpike did experience a severe amount of loss with all the ash trees on the bank. So those banks are going to be bad too, but hopefully we'll get something with, if they do any interchange work.
Yeah, so our dog park fence goes right up to our border. We are going to add some trees in the dog park. Did talk with Lynette and another person about adding trees near the parking lot for the dog park. I'm not as high on that, maybe as Lynette is, but there might be some space to add some. And we did talk about behind the old Benders, which I think is now Main Street fence. There's some room there where we can certainly add some trees.
Yeah, that was.
So we did not get to that in the fall. Some of the trees that I think Lynette was interested in are better planted in the spring. So maybe we can get moving on that in the spring and then take a look at the fall as well.
Okay, thank you.
Kevin, back to the 2040 grant. So you're still planning that for the intersection with Horsham?
Well, we're discussing it with Horsham. We're mad.
Oh, you've already talked to them? Because I just don't think that fits in the priorities near as well as if
It's
we work with
pedestrian.
Horsham for the trail.
It's pedestrian crossings there.
There is a pedestrian element to it. How much we can get out of it, we'll see. But yeah, I have a call into Horsham. I have not heard back from it yet, but ideally before next Monday's meeting, I'll have an answer from Horsham.
It's a pretty heavy pedestrian area too. It's grown. I hear you. I understand where you're coming
It's a
from.
good point, though. It may not amount to a ton of money, but it could be part of the project.
All right.
Sorry.
Sure.
This is not as profound as Commissioner Lockhart's statement, but 2040 is the grant, Commissioner Spearing. 2050 is the new comprehensive plan. So you're right, there is a 2050. The grant's still called 2040. So hopefully we could put that argument to rest. You're right. Well, okay. Yeah, I was like, I just needed to remember that because I looked this up before.
All right, well,
Thank you.
settle that controversy. Are there any visitor comments? Are there any visitors, right? Any commissioner comments? I have none. Let's be adjourned. Thank you.
Good, thank you, everybody.